If you thought that slow season is the worst time to analyze Airbnb markets or that you should wait it out, you're gonna wanna hear this. Because the truth is, the slow seasons is actually when bad deals get exposed and strong markets become obvious. I've helped hundreds of hosts analyze markets the right way, and I've seen firsthand why most people get this completely wrong and end up bleeding cash when bookings are slow. So in this video, I'm gonna be breaking down exactly how to do Airbnb market analysis during the slow season, what data actually matters, what to ignore, how to go and identify markets and units that go and survive year-round. Let's get into it. So here's what slow season really looks like in Airbnb, because most hosts dread the slow season just because of the stigma it's slow, and also most often, to no surprise, they don't do well or they end up losing money during these months. The majority of units, and we're talking about 80% plus of Airbnbs, are performing poorly, whether they're barely breaking even or losing money not getting any bookings at all. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. In this video, I will cover how to choose units and markets that do well regardless of the seasonality. Understanding why most Airbnb investors fail during the slow season is equally important to understanding how to win. And the number one reason why hosts fail during the slow season is simply because their foundation is completely broken. Meaning the foundation of picking the right units in the correct place to invest in with proven demand. Because if you launch an Airbnb in a market with no demand, guess what? No matter how good your strategies are, if you don't have evidence of performance, it just won't perform. And that's called gambling. And we do not like to gamble when it comes to business. And I'll show you the correct way to choose Airbnbs to invest into that perform well regardless of seasonality. Okay, let's dive into how to identify the most profitable Airbnbs during slow season. So first, you want to start on the Airbnb platform, and here are the search filters. Any market you're interested in, whether you're interested in Hawaii, Seattle, Texas, NorCal, SoCal, wherever the case may be, my strategy is applicable worldwide and we get pinpoint accurate. So we're going to start off with any market you want to study. For the dates, leave that alone. And your guest count, always push it to 6 guests. And so in this case, I'm gonna go and do my analysis over in the Hoboken, New Jersey market. Next thing you wanna go and do is open up that filters button and increase that minimum nightly rate to 300 plus. This helps us force Airbnb to only show us the units that are charging the most. And so when you think about it too, right? It's like, who would you guys rather host? An $80 per night guest or 300 plus per night? Of course, everyone says 300 plus per night. Why? Well, of course you can go and generate more income. But what's important to know too is the quality of your clientele that you're attracting here. You have higher end clientele. With these individuals, you get a lot less headaches, and of course you'll end up loving your business, right? And when you compare it to $80 per night, $80 per night Airbnbs come up with $80 per night problems. And I'll share with you, right? Of course, there's no upside. These are the type of individuals that destroy your unit, very disrespectful. And of course, this is the crazy things that you guys see online, right? All of the crazy stories, it all tends to be attracting the wrong type of individual. So the foundation here is broken. And of course, when you deal with all of those things, you end up hating your business. Now, getting back to, of course, we're gonna be filtering for our 300 plus per night Airbnbs. We're gonna go and get a list that looks like this. And here, let me go and outline a couple of great examples. So here, when you're looking at an Airbnb, the first thing you wanna see is their calendar. You're gonna open up the calendar and you're gonna move it all the way back to the current month, okay? So the time of me making these slides is January 7th. So that's the current month here. And again, we're highlighting this to go and show you the slow season market analysis, right? And so the first thing I wanna do is share with you the 75-55 rule. This is a rule of occupancy that I created here. Very, very strict. There's 2 separate rules, both must be met. The 75 rule and the 55 rule must be met. There's a little bit of leniency. I'll talk about that in a little bit here. But let's kick it off with the first one, okay? It says, in the next 30 days from the current day, we're looking for 75% plus occupancy or 22 plus days booked. So in the next 30 days from current day. So again, these slides were made January 7th, okay? So that was the current day during that time. And so if we look 30 days out, the 7th to the 7th, okay, we want to see 75% plus occupancy or 22 plus days booked. The easy way here is to count the days unbooked, then subtract it by 30. So here you can see that's 1 night, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 30 minus 7 is 23. So therefore, the 75 rule is met. And then we want to go and look at the 55 rule next, okay? So in the next 30 to 60 days, we want to see 55% plus occupancy or 15 plus days booked. So we need to go 30 days out. So here we are from February 7th to March 7th. And we want to see 15 plus days booked. And at a quick glance, you can see very clearly that is definitely 15 plus days booked. The next thing you want to go and do to validate the data that you see here is open up the reviews, and you want to see recent reviews, okay? okay? This is very, very important to see to go and validate the data that you are looking at. So here's another example of the 75-55 rule. So we initially look from January 7th to February 7th. We count the days unbooked. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Minus 30 is 23 nights. So therefore the 75 rule is met, check. And then we go and look at the 55 rule. So we have to jump out to February 7th to March 7th, okay? We can count the days booked here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Here we are 2 days shy. Earlier, I was talking about the leniency rule, and the leniency rule is only for the 55 rule where I give plus or minus 3 days. And so the reason that I give a little bit of leniency there is because, for example, right, let's say today is the 7th of January. If we give it another week and we look again on the 14th, most likely with that 1 week of time, the 55 rule gets booked. And that typically happens. So that's why I give a little bit of leniency only for the 55 rule. So in this case, the 75-55 meets because of the leniency rule. And of course, we need to go and look at the most recent reviews to validate that the data is legitimate. And so let's look at another example. Here's another one from the 7th to the 7th. We can see here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days unbooked. Subtracted by 30, that makes 24 days booked. And then we go and look at the 55 rule from the 7th to the 7th here. And very quickly, at a quick glance, you can see that fulfills the 15 plus days. And so of course, as you guys know, we always need to go and double check the most recent reviews to validate the data here, okay? So now we have 3 great examples of 2 bedrooms that are charging 300 plus per night and they fulfill the 75-55 rule. The next thing that we need to do is go and identify how much are these units generating. And so as you can see, what we want to go and do is open up the calendars here. And I like to round down just for easy math. So I would call this $300 per night. And looking at the calendar, you can see very clearly this 2 bedroom is generating in the realm of $9,000 to $10,000 per month. And I like to point out units like this because they don't look very special at all. And I would probably argue, you watching right now, you can go and beat this unit with your eyes closed. And so when you see things like this, an ugly unit performing very well, this screams opportunity within your market, okay? And moving on to this example here, again, we can use $300 per night for easy math. You can see here, this unit is generating very clearly upwards of $10, $11, almost $12,000 per month. And over here, if we round down, we're talking about $500 per month. And so this unit is trending upwards of $15,000 per month. Again, all of these are 2 bedrooms, okay? So as a recap, we've got this unit doing about $9,000 to $10,000 a month, this one about $11,000 to $12,000, and this one about $15,000 per month. So now we first identified their bed and bath configuration. The next thing we need to go and look for is their location. These units, of course, when you scroll down on the Airbnb page, it shows and reveals where the Airbnb is located, okay? Now, it wouldn't make sense for us to go and find a 2 bedroom all the way over here, for example, right? Your units that you acquire, they need to go and replicate these and be within the same area so you can have predictable performance. And so the next thing we want to go and look at is the amenities. Is there any amenities and the caliber of units? So here, we don't see any amenities. You might see some shared amenities here, but that doesn't count. In the game of Airbnb, typically when we're talking about amenities, we want to have a private amenity. For example, a private rooftop, a private balcony, or even a private pool, for example. In this case, these units do not have any amenities. The next thing is caliber of unit. So the caliber of unit means, are we looking at apartments, single family homes, townhomes? And right here, you can very easily identify this is an apartment, this is an apartment, and most likely this is an apartment too. And so now we have the 4 criteria, so we know exactly what type of unit to acquire. The first one being a 2 bedroom. Second, we know the location. There was no amenities, and now we know that there's an apartment. So when we choose an Airbnb to go and acquire, right, there's these 3 calibers that you notice as they get nicer and nicer, they're able to generate more and more money. My recommendation is always to go and look for the best of the best. I call these type of units regular schmegler. Never go for regular schmegler just because they can produce income like this one. I always recommend and advocate to be the best. To be top 1%, you need to go and strive for units like this who go and generate the most money. And so now that we understand the 4 criteria, let's go find a deal on Zillow. Look into the market, same exact market. Go and change the filters here. And of course, I've got a really awesome deal. The location again is within the same area we were looking at earlier. And typically I like to have nice kitchens and nice restrooms. So here's a really awesome example, okay? So the next thing that we need to do is calculate the profitability. So the way that you want to think about it is based on these comparables. If my goal is to be 100% booked, what is the lowest that I need to charge per night? So based on these comparables at $350, $385, and $540, a very conservative take on that would be $400 per night, because our unit replicates this one the most, right? And of course, it looks way better than this, so we don't need to charge $350 per night. That's undershooting. We're leaving money on the table. We don't need to charge astronomically more than this one. We are very conservative. So at $400 a night, we can confidently be booked 100%. So I always like to come from a conservative mindset. And now we're gonna plug this into our calculator here, where the rent again is $4,800. We're gonna spend $12,000 on furnishing a 2-bedroom. That is gonna be the perfect amount. So approximately $22,000 all in here. We're gonna plug in our rent, our expenses like our utilities, internet, our insurance, and of course, can't forget our cleaning fee. Now this is per clean, by the way. Down here for our assumptions, I did say 100% booked, but I do subtract 2 days to be conservative. The hosting fee that Airbnb takes from us is 15.5%, and we said $400 per night, and we'll see how all of the numbers pencil out. So here we invested $22,000 into the deal. Our unit will go and generate $9,500 per month. That is after the 15.5% fee, and after all of our other expenses, we are left with almost $4,000 per month profit and a yearly profit of almost $48,000. And this is a really good deal, because whenever you think about it, what business can you invest $22,000 into and get paid out $4,000 per month in profit? Not many businesses can go and do something like that. And especially when we're going and borrowing this money from the bank, 0% interest. 0% interest in the US on average is 12 months. So you need to know when your break-even time is. And so that's why I have the metric right here, where simply it takes your total amount invested divided by your monthly profit. And here makes 5 months and change, which is very, very impressive considering, a business that can break even in 1 year is a very, very good business. Think about your restaurants, your salons, for example. None of those ever break even in 1 year. So understanding the significance here that any business that can break even in 6 months or less is an incredible business. And the last thing too, right? We calculated very conservatively with our ADR being $400 per night, because do we have room for $450? We sure do. Let's go and see how that pencils out. $450 per night, we have a $5,000 a month profit. We can even plug in $500 just to go and see how those numbers come out too. And here we're talking about $6,300 per month profit, but I'm very conservative when it comes to our calculations. That's why we went with a very nice and safe $400 per night. And I want to go and highlight earlier, I asked the question, what is the lowest that I need to charge to be 100% booked? Coming from a conservative mind. And so if we can conservatively use a $400 ADR and be able to generate a massive $4,000 per month profit, think about it. What happens to our risk now? This effectively helps us lower our risk. You see what I'm saying? And the powerful thing too is, like, when you think about it, could I ever lose money on this deal? And so just for example, if we just go back here and we can copy the worst of the worst. So if I took $350 per night, plugged it into the calculator, I'm still left with a $2,800 per month profit. And let's say we want to be even more conservative than that. Let's even call it $300 per night. We still have a $1,600 profit per month, which is very, very impressive, because this highlights that we can never lose money on this deal. And again, it's only possible if you understand a high profit strategy and if you understand the 75-55 rule. And when you calculate conservatively, this is how you de-risk and how you can guarantee profitability. But once again, I want to be a very, very conservative person when it comes to our calculations here. That's why I say $400 per night. I like to under project and overperform. And the last thing is I want to go and tie this all together, right? And that's, what about the seasonality? So let me show you exactly how to go and identify the seasonality here. So here's the website you want to use. It's called rabu.com, where you can plug in the address. So once again, we were looking at 303 Madison here. You can see 33 Madison. And the thing is, I want to make sure we are very clear. These numbers up here mean absolutely nothing. They're very, very inaccurate. Please never rely on software to make your investment decision. So here's the significance of utilizing this website, is to be able to identify where's my slow season, where's my mid season, and where's my high season. And as you can see very clearly in our example, we did January and February. So this is the slowest season of the year. And so when you tie the whole thought process together, if we're doing $4,000 per month profit during the slow season, you can very easily assume in mid season, you will be generating more income and more profit. In high season, of course, you're going to be generating a lot more profit during the high season. So tying the whole thought process together, the $4,000 per month profit is the lowest that you will make year round. And this is why the strategy is so powerful. So here's why slow season is actually the best time to grow. Ultimately, should you be afraid of the slow season? Absolutely not. Should you be growing your Airbnb business during the slow season? Yes. And this is powerful because most people get paralyzed by fear. Fear is just the lack of knowledge and strategy. Versus if you're growing your Airbnb business and choosing units that perform perform well during slow season. That just means that you'll perform that much better during high season. And it gives you the validation of what types of units are needed to be able to survive all seasons so you can grow and operate at a high level. Concepts like these promote market mastery. So that's how you analyze Airbnb markets during the slow season, by focusing on real demand, survivability, and the data that actually matters. If you want to learn exactly how to go and set up your very first Airbnb step by step using the same standards, market analysis, and deal structure myself and 500 plus of my students have used, then check out my next free live training. In this training, I will go over how to go and acquire cash flowing Airbnbs, how to fund them with 0% interest business funding, and how to go and get landlord approvals for the arbitrage model. You can go and register by clicking the link in the description. And if this video helped, make sure you subscribe. I've got a lot more coming to help you do Airbnb the right way.